Greetings dear friends and welcome once more to my channel. I am 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐩𝐸 from 𝐼𝐶REVOLUTION Company. Thank you for joining my 1-month programming challenge, which will be starting today. We are going to start with our first project, which will be building a loan calculator using the programming language Visual Basics and the IDE Visual Studio. Before we get started, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. So I'm going to proceed by launching my Visual Studio, and in this project I'm going to be using Visual Studio 2022. So I'm going to proceed by creating a new project, and here I'm going to look for a Windows form, which is this. No, sorry. Okay, this is it. A project template for creating a .NET Windows form. So we are going to select it and then click on next. I'm going to name my project Loan Calculator, and I will proceed with next. It's going to take some time for our form to be created, so let's wait. Our form has been created, so we can proceed with our project. You can see the toolbox, which contain all the controls that we will need in order to execute our project or to design our project. And you can see the property panel, which is used to manipulate each and every control that we are going to need for this project. So I'm going to start by changing the text property of my form to what I'm trying to build, which is a loan calculator. So the first thing to do in this project is to design our application interface. So looking at what I am trying to do, I will certainly need to give the user the facility to enter certain data. For example, I will need the user to be able to enter the loan amount, the loan duration, and the interest rate, and to specify whether the loan will be paid at the beginning of a month or at the end of a month. And then I should obviously give the user the possibility to click on a certain button so that the calculations can be executed and he or she can get their monthly loan payment, as well as the user should be able to exit the app. So to do that, I'm going to need three text boxes, 2 buttons, 1 checkbox, and 1 label. So let me start with my text boxes. I'm just simply going to copy this and paste it back. These are my 3 text boxes. I will need 2 bottles. Copy and paste. I'm equally going to need some labels. I'm going to need a label for each text boxes. So I'm going to copy this and paste back. So I have my 3 label for my 3 text boxes in order to guide the user on what to do with particular or with the specific data to enter with a particular text box. So I think I'm still going to need another label. Okay. So on the first label, I'm going to move to its text property, and I'm going to call it loan amount. Then I'm going to move to it. I'm going to move to the font. I'm going to change the font size to 12. Okay. For the second label, I'm going to change its text property to duration. And I want the duration in months. I will change its font size to 12. It's already at 12. For the next label, I'm going to change its text property. And then for the next label, I'm going to change its text property to and I'm going to use my last label as my screen, where the output of the calculator will be shown. So yeah, I am going to look for the auto size property. Let me first change the border size, the border style, sorry, to fixed single. Okay. And then I'm going to look for, I'm going to change its auto size property to false. I'm going to change now its text property. I'm going to move everything there. I will change its back color to something much more better. Okay. That is it. Then I will move to the bottom and change their text properties. It's important here not to mix between the text property and the name property of a control. Remember that here we are still working, or we are working with the text properties. Okay. So we'll still proceed with designing our interface. It's not yet done. Oh, remember that we needed a checkbox. Left that out, so we are going to move back to our toolbox, and I'm going to need another label, so I will just copy this and paste it back. I'm going to change this text property to okay. Okay, we are slowly moving and completing with our design. So I'm going to adjust a number of things. going to select all the controls and move to format. I'm going to center them horizontally, and then I'm going to center them vertically onto the form. So now we are done with the design of a loan application or loan calculator. So I'm going to move to each of the text boxes, and I'm going to move to the name property of each of the text boxes. So you see here, for the first box, initially was called text box 3. So we are going to use Hungarian notation to rename our text boxes. So this one I'm going to call it TXT amount. Okay. Okay. So we are done with designing our loan application. I think the last thing I will need to do here, I'm going to move to view, and I will click on tab order. What I've just done now is for accessibility purposes. So we are done with the design of our loan calculator interface. So we are now going to move to programming our loan calculator. So to do that, we are going to double click on our payment button, and that will open our payment procedure, where we will need to code the behavior that we want our loan calculator to portray. So essentially in this project, we just have to code the procedure for the button, and that for the exit button. So to do that, looking at my design, I can see that I have 3 text boxes. I have a checkbox, I have a label, which will be used to display the output of the loan calculator, or of our loan calculator. So before even going to the coding part of this project, there are certain concepts that we need to understand. So for this project, we are going to be using the PMT functions, which comes with VB. And the PMP function is what is going to help us to be able to calculate our monthly payment. And you can see that the PMT functions comes with the following parameters: the interest rate, the period of the loan, the amount of the loan, the future value, and the dues. So I'm going to talk about each of these parameters. The interest rate is specified as a monthly rate, Generally, for a monthly rate, we have the interest percentage divided by 12. So the duration of the loan is specified in numbers of months. The amount is the loan amount. That is the amount that we want to get as our loan. The future value of a loan is generally 0. It would be positive. It would be a positive value for an investment. The due in the formula specifies when payments are due. The value of the due can be one of the constants, which I will state now. It can be the due date, which could be at the beginning of the month or at the end of a month. So we have the due date dot BEG of period and end of period. The value that we are going to pass to our function, that is the PMT functions, are called arguments. And arguments are values that are needed by the function so it will be able to carry out an action or a calculation. So with this in mind, we can move to the programming part of our project. So back to Visual Studio, we are going to double click on our calculation button. So I am going to start by declaring the different variables that I'm going to need for this project, or in order to program the car payment button. So I'm going to start with dim. So I have declared the different variables that I believe I will need according to the project that I have on hand. The next thing I will need to do, which is of importance for this project, is that I will need to write code to validate each and every one of my variables. So I'm going to add a comment here. So I am going to do the validation process for each of my variables. So I will start with if, using the trackbase method. Payment options. Okay. So here now we are done with our early payment options, which could be at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month. Remember that I had to declare a variable called DAT, early pay. So the due date can be at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. With that, we can move to the next phase or step of our programming process, which will be to calculate monthly payment, which we will need to divide by 12, as I said in my explanation. Here we have assigned our PMT function to the variable DEC payment, and finally we will need to be able to display our output. So to do that, I'm going to call my LBL, which is LBL payment here. And I'm going to assign my variable and to format it, I'm going to use the toString method, and I want to format it using a currency format. Okay, we are done with programming our procedure, which is the card payment button. So this is all we needed to do. Yeah. So the last thing we are going to program is exit a button, which is this. I'm going to double click there. Here I'm just going to use a me.close method. And we are done with our project. So like always, the last thing to do when you have built an app is to test it to be sure that it is functioning as or is working as intended. So we are going to build this app and test it. Okay, this app, so let's test it. Duration 2 months, interest rate 14.5, early payment